What's going on, guys? So you are joining me inside of the 2020 Chevy Silverado 3500 HD pickup truck. Now, this specific truck is kind of a unicorn, kind of that mythological truck that you always hear about, but you never really see. Now, everyone's familiar with the videos that everyone's put out, and you know, you can go to your local Chevrolet dealership and you can see a Chevy 3500 HD. But there's something about this specific truck that makes it very special and kind of rare at the same time. And I think you're going to enjoy this video, so hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, let's talk about what makes this truck special and what makes it different. So typically when you go to a Chevrolet dealership or a Ford or a Ram dealership, the vast majority of the trucks that they'll have on the lot are going to be crew cab short bed pickup trucks. In the case of heavy duty trucks, it might be a crew cab 6.5, 6.75 foot bed or an 8-foot bed. But typically it's a crew cab. Typically it's a four-wheel drive truck, because your four-wheel drive crew cab pickup truck is the best selling truck cab configuration that most manufacturers offer. So much so that they actually tend to eliminate models that don't have that configuration from dealership lots. You don't see as many of them because they just don't sell as well. Now, what makes this truck incredibly special is the fact that this is a regular cab, two-wheel drive work truck package. What does that mean? That means that this truck is likely to have the highest payload spec as well as the highest towing spec that Chevrolet has to offer in a Class 3 pickup truck. A Class 3 pickup truck being a truck with a gross vehicle weight rating of 14,000 pounds or less. Now, why does that matter? Well, it matters because you need to understand what you're going to be towing and how much weight you're going to have in the back of your truck. So a truck like this is going to give you a tremendously high payload capacity because it's a stripped down truck without the extra weight of a four-wheel drive system or the crew cab configuration, which gives you the extra seats and everything in the back, but also adds roughly 3.5 feet of length to the truck. Now, this truck does come with an 8-foot bed, which is going to be standard on this type of configuration. You're not really going to see dualies with the 6.5-foot bed any longer unless you're looking at something like a Ram Mega Cab, which essentially sacrifices bed length to give you a little bit more cab length. Now, this specific truck has some really cool attributes to it. One of those is one of the packages that it has. So this has a convenience package. It's really only been spec'd out with 2 special packages, both of which will slightly decrease the maximum payload capacity, but not by much. One of those, again, is the convenience package, which is what gives you the 7-inch display up front. It gives you the power windows, power door locks. It gives you a rear view camera. It gives you a few features that you might be looking for, like keyless entry. The other package is the 5th wheel gooseneck prep package. That is the mandatory package that I spec out on these types of trucks, which include the 5th wheel connection as well as the gooseneck drop-in connection, which is absolutely amazing when you get that built into the truck. No more having to install rails on top of your bed, no more having to drill holes through your truck, because the truck comes equipped with pretty much the 2 types of connections you would likely use for towing. Now, the big story about this truck in this configuration is that it's going to be a relatively rare configuration for most people. I think even if people opt for something similar to this, they would really get the crew cab version as opposed to the regular cab. This specific package that I'm in is really designed more for folks who are going to be using it as part of a fleet with their business, simply because, again, there aren't a lot of people that buy non-crew cab trucks, that basically buy regular cab trucks. That being said, I know there's a lot of people shaking their head right now that watch my channel that would absolutely love this configuration of truck because they don't need the crew cab. They don't need that space. This has a bench seat up front that gives you capacity for up to 3 adults, which is more than enough for a lot of people, especially if you're just a couple and you're traveling with a large fifth wheel. You want the maximum towing capacity and the maximum payload capacity you can get with the very basic level of luxury, you know, power windows, door locks, things like that. And the fact that you're still getting a 7-inch display with the ability to still use your Android or Apple phone with the infotainment system. So a lot of really nice reasons to look at a truck like this if you have no need for a crew cab truck. What's also nice is the fact that you get a tremendous amount of rear seat storage. So I was kind of shocked and amazed with the amount of space there is behind the actual driver and passenger seat. This is a really, really cool configuration if you are planning on hauling a large fifth wheel and you need that payload capacity. This truck is going to be a relatively heavy truck though, because it is still built on a heavy-duty Class 3 chassis, which means it's the same body, same frame that you're essentially getting with your crew cab truck, just in a slightly shorter package. And if you plan on hauling a fifth wheel with this, because the weight is going to be placed over the back axle and not behind it, you're unlikely to experience any type of real adverse effects with wind or sway that could impact a normal truck that's towing a hitch receiver or a bumper pull style trailer. Now, what I can also tell you is there's absolutely no lack of power with this truck. It absolutely acts like a rocket when you hit the throttle. I mean, it just wants to take off. This thing is an absolute beast. And for 2020, they've definitely given you the power and the torque you need to get this thing moving, which is likely to help if you're going to be towing a trailer as well. Specifically if you're going uphill, and with the 6.6 Duramax engine and the Allison transmission, going downhill using the engine exhaust brake is going to be a pretty easy process as well. And I had a chance to test that in a video that I had done on the GMC version of this truck, and it works flawlessly. Now, one thing you can probably tell, it's a pretty bumpy ride right now, and I picked this specific road because it's not the smoothest of roads. It is actually a pretty rough road. And right off the bat, you're gonna feel that unsprung weight of this truck just kind of bouncing around. Once you put a sizable amount of weight in the back of this truck, it's gonna settle the suspension down quite a bit, but it is a relatively rough ride unless you're on smooth roads, because this suspension is designed for payload capacity. And if you don't have any payload in the back, there's nothing that's settling those springs down. They're just essentially acting as firm coil springs or firm leaf springs that have nothing to help dampen them. And this truck does bounce around a bit whenever you are on a less than smooth or less than ideal road. Overall though, if you're on a smooth road surface, the truck rides really smooth. It's definitely not a bad experience, but you can almost expect a rougher ride from any dually pickup truck when you don't have it loaded up. Shoot, my F450 is probably only as smooth as it is riding because I have quite a bit of weight on it without the fifth wheel. I have my toolbox, I have the bumpers, I have the winch, I have the hitch in the back, things that add weight to the truck, but at the same time, that weight helps dampen the suspension by putting a load on it. What's also interesting about what GM's been able to do with both the Chevy as well as the GM variant of this truck and any configuration with this diesel engine and transmission is the fact that you have incredible performance, acceleration, and engine exhaust braking, considering the fact that it doesn't have over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. And I say that because a lot of people think that the race to the top in terms of torque really is the most important factor. But in the case of General Motors, they've proven that it's not, that it doesn't need to be over 1,000 pounds to give you more than enough capacity, more than enough power to haul even some of the largest trailers out there, at least for Class 3 configured trucks. Now we're about to transition to a smoother section of road, so you'll have the opportunity to see how this kind of shifts over. And then once you hit this smoother section, you know, everything's really smooth. The truck rides really smooth, it handles really well. The truck almost feels like a bit of a sports car as you're driving it around because it's relatively compact, other than the fact that it's a dually, so you have the wide fenders on the back. But at the same time, this firm suspension equates well to a road like this that doesn't have tons of potholes and rough conditions that you're going to be taking it over. Now, something else that's really nice about this truck is the fact that because it is a regular cab truck and it's relatively short, the turning radius on it isn't that bad. I wouldn't say it's quite as aggressive as you're going to get on an F450 with that wide track axle, but it's definitely not what I would consider to be crazy bad. Like right here, I can just barely get over here before I hit the curb. You kind of have to roll over it. On my F450, I would come right up to the curb there, but I wouldn't actually roll over it. On this truck, I probably rolled over it about a foot, maybe a foot and a half. So in terms of turning, this truck actually has a very, very tight turning radius because it's a relatively short wheelbase truck. Again, this is a really nice truck. If this were a truck I were gonna buy, I would definitely get it in a four-wheel drive crew cab configuration. That configuration is definitely going to grant you a little bit more practicality for, I think, the average person. In terms of the technology package, I'm actually pretty happy with this technology package. I would prefer a key fob to where I don't have to take the key out of my pocket every time. I'm so used to just carrying a key fob around in my pocket, getting in the truck and pressing a button. I think what really makes this truck special is its simplicity, that it provides you 80% of the things you might want in any pickup truck. It lacks about 20% of the technology and convenience features that you come to expect on high-spec trucks, but at a cost that's going to be roughly $30,000 to $40,000 less than some of these other trucks. It might be more than adequate for the average person. Again, speccing this truck out with four-wheel drive and a crew cab configuration with this exact same convenience package and fifth wheel gooseneck prep package, it's probably only going to cost you an additional $6,000 or $7,000. It'll still put you under $60,000, and you will have an incredibly capable truck with a tremendous amount of payload capacity, a tremendous towing number, which is still going to be well over 30,000 pounds. In a package that's more practical for the average person, that gives you the ability to haul larger fifth wheels than your typical high-spec trimmed truck. There's a lot to be said about that. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to have this truck for quite a while longer, and I'm going to be doing some other videos with it, and I specifically want to see how this truck is going to handle the weight of the Van Leaf fifth wheel. Anyways, guys, this road is beating me up a little bit. I am going to get off of it as soon as I can. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, now is a great time. Take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.